Hey, how's everyone doing today? I got a question for you. You didn't start your business to be broke, right? Or to work 24/7? I know I didn't. And you're sending out invoices, you're signing up clients, you're feeling like you're on top of the world, right? But your bank account's a little light. Do you know what I'm talking about? As I've grown my business, I've also grown my understanding of having a solid system in place for my financials. I know that that's really important so that I can grow and scale my business. I've also come to realize that you need to connect your numbers with your spending habits. I'm inflicted with a terrible disease. It's called SOS. And I want to know if anybody else watching has this disease called SOS. It's shiny object syndrome. I buy every app and program I see out there. It's on sale through AppSumo, and I've just got to have it because it's going to help me grow my business or do something easier. Does anyone else have SOS disease? Just type SOS in the comments because I know that I can't be the only person, right? What I've learned is that I don't need more apps and programs to run my business efficiently. What I need is a budget of how much I can spend on those every year. And then once I hit that budget, I don't get to buy anymore. That's going to help me make better decisions. Are you feeling me yet? Hey, do you throw all your money in one bucket? Or do you have separate accounts for taxes, operating expenses, and a profit account? That's the account that you pay yourself from. Do you have all that set up, or do you just pay your bills and take money out when you need it? I'm just asking because we're here to set you up for financial success in 2021. So grab your laptop, your notepad, your coffee, your water, or your tea, and join us on a journey of how you can set yourself up for success in 2021 and get your money mindset all set up. And it's just ironic that I had another mindset coach on last week. I think after the year of 2020 that we all kind of need to reset our minds. So join us this morning to reset your financial mindset. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Fain Brandt, the host of the show, Bite-Sized Tips for Busy Entrepreneurs, where I bring on savvy business professionals who are experts in their industry to share with you the tips and trends that can help you grow and scale your business with ease. And today we have a very special guest joining us from across the pond. That's what I like to say when they're over in like London and England and stuff. His name is Mahmoud, sorry about that, from Proactive Resolutions. And he's going to be sharing 3 tips because you know that this is bite-sized tips for busy entrepreneurs. So first tip is don't treat your business like a hobby. That's tip number 1, so important. Tip number 2 is connecting your numbers. And finally, tip number 3 is developing your money mindset. Now, I want to read a little bit about him. He's an accountant with business DNA that helps business owners strengthen their money mindset, make a decent profit, and save time and taxes and just gain more freedom. I mean, that's what we all want, right? More time. He also hosts a weekly podcast called I Hate Numbers. Man, if you only knew how much I hate numbers, just ask my husband when it's tax time. I put it off as long as I can because I hate dealing with those numbers, even though I have reports. I feel like he needs a cape on because he's like the Superman of numbers. I'm so excited to bring him on the show. But before we do, a couple of things. First, big shout out to StreamYard, the official sponsor of Bite-Sized Tips for Busy Entrepreneurs. It's a live streaming platform that allows me, and you if you like, to stream to multiple platforms with just a touch of a button. It's that easy, you guys. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm going to drop my link in the comments a little later on the show. So if you want to go check it out, feel free. It's a great way to reach a wider audience. And then you guys, if you're watching the replay, we want to know that you're watching the replay. Hashtag replay, drop your questions in the comments, and we promise that we're going to go back in and answer those. So you know what? Enough about the show. Let's bring our special guest on. Hello, good morning or good afternoon. It's like 4 o'clock, right?
It is 4 o'clock. It's the second or third shift of the day in the UK. And I believe is it 9 o'clock, if I can pronounce it, in the sunny US.
Yes, it's morning. It's 9 o'clock in Arizona where I'm at. We've got a bunch of comments and people watching. So I'm going to get to those in just a moment. Absolutely. But thank you so much for joining me. And just so you guys know, we didn't randomly met. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and then we jumped on a call because I wanted to know what's so special. What's so special about Mahmoud, and what does he bring to the table? And I think that we talked for almost an hour, right?
That's right. I think we were originally scheduled to do a few minutes, and before we knew it, time's running away. People are knocking and say, "Come on, wrap it up." So yeah, it's a great introduction, Mary.
It was just a fabulous chat, you know, two colleagues talking numbers, which is not my thing, but you made it interesting and where I could understand, right? So that's my whole thing with programs and finances and taxes. Like, that's just not my love language. Like, it's not in my scope of brilliance. So we need people like you. So before we get started, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about your background and how long you've been doing this and how you got started?
Oh, that's a great start question. So a bit of potted history, a bit of a sort of tour around. So ironically, Monday just gone was year 26 in my business. So I've been started from my back bedroom 26 years ago, my own business. I've managed to move out that back bedroom. So I've got a wonderful team in city centre offices where I live in now in Leicester. My former life, in terms of when people started paying me money, I started in the world of teaching. And I'm not sure what it's like in the US, but if you're in teaching, people think you can't actually do anything practical. So I left teaching after 3 years, nothing to go to. So that sort of developed my first bit of risk appetite. Moved into industry, worked for a brewery company for about 5.5 years, worked at top level, bottom level, doing all things numbers. Thought, I love being an accountant, but I don't want to do that for the rest of my life, just that. Jumped ship again, started my own business, fast forward 26 years, and here I am now. Personal stuff, I'm actually one of 9 kids. I'm right in the middle.
Wait, 9?
9 kids. I've got 6 brothers, 2 sisters. Obviously, it's the middle child that always gets ignored, so I just did my own thing. So yeah, 9 kids. They're probably a little bit older than kids now. So in a potted history, are now married, 2 cats who probably are my landlords more than anything else, who give me that disappointed look when I see them that says, you could do better.
Wow. Well, we've got a bunch of people on. I want to give a shout out. We've got Marion, Tim, Amy, David. I'm trying to go through because we have a bunch of comments. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And if you have a specific question, go ahead and drop that in the comments. And we'll make sure to ask that during our time here with Mahmoud and talking numbers, which is not my specialty. Amy says, I have to know the time investment of the shiny object and the financial investment because time is money. And Amy knows that I have SOS, shiny object syndrome. I was put on restriction. I think it was 2 years ago. I was not allowed to buy any new objects or go to a conference until I finished a project. So love my friends that are like, no, Mary, you're not allowed to do that. David, solar educator, thanks for joining us. I'd also love to know, you guys, where are you watching from? Because live video on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook, because we're live on several platforms, we can reach an international audience. So I love knowing where everyone's joining us from. So let's get just like right in. Okay, first, like 9 kids. I'm still like, so growing up, was like money a thing in your house with 9 kids, trying to like feed 9 kids, clothe 9 kids? Like, do you think that maybe seeing that in your family, like the money struggles, maybe, and I don't know if you had struggles, maybe you didn't, maybe you're rich.
No, I think it's a fair point. It's a massive influence. I mean, I think it's weird actually. I know you flagged up money mindset at the beginning, Mary, but people's money mindset is pretty much influenced by their family upbringing, the social class, all the rest of it. And coming from a large family like that, money wasn't really in plentiful supply. So from a very early age, money became a focal point, and money I equated very much with freedom. Didn't have a great deal of it, and I actually started, I would call like an entrepreneurial sort of spirit at school, from managing bands, doing lost property sales and all the rest of it, but scarcity. And that's always formulated my thing about how I see money in terms of giving leverages of power, giving you opportunities, but also valuing still all these years later about what a great commodity it is in terms of doing what you want in your own life. But certainly for me, family was a massive influencer in that shaped my, outlook now.
Yeah, and so last week I had Deanna, who's also a mindset coach, and mindset has been on everyone's mind. That's ironic,
Yeah.
just because 2020, everything that we went through, and I think everyone's like ready for a reset. Let's reset our minds. Let's get a better mindset set up so that we can have success in all areas of our life. And today we're focusing on financial mindset, but I think that you hit some important points that we might not even realize where our money mindset comes from. We have to think back about how we were raised and what we learned, because that, as a child, as a teenager, right? How we saw our parents and our friends deal with money. That's how we learn. Because when I was growing up, and I don't know if they do it now, but there was no classes on finances.
No.
We didn't learn, a checkbook, because back then we didn't learn how to balance an account or credit cards, like what the disaster was if you just, it's money. My 5.5-year-old niece, we took her shopping for Christmas presents for her parents, right? About a year and a half ago. So she was like 4. And we got to the counter and I was like, well, Charlie, how are you going to pay for it? And she saw my credit cards on my phone and she took it out and handed it, because that generation, they don't even see cash, right? All they see is that card. So I'm wondering how her money mindset is going to be.
It's interesting. It'd be interesting about your niece as well, actually, in terms of youngsters. And I think that sort of legacy of our mindset, many people take that into their businesses, and unfortunately, they take it the wrong way. So, for example, for many people, money is quite a topic that people don't talk about. It's a very grubby topic. I meet a lot of business owners that don't actually like talking money to clients. They don't like actually looking at things like pricing. And I think when you've got that money phobia, but you don't want to talk about it and discuss it, that can put some real pressure on business owners out there.
Talking about it. I'm going to put that in the comments. That's probably going to be a pro tip that we share out. So I want to make sure that we get to some of the questions. Then we're definitely gonna, dive into these topics that we picked. Marion says, I have a good question. So I'm a small business. Since COVID, my business has been slow. Should I do my taxes for 2021? The number of money is low. She's in the photography industry.
Okay.
So we all have to do our taxes, even if the numbers are low, right?
Absolutely. I think there's typically 2 ways the tax offices work around the world, US, UK, wherever you are. There's one side of the IRS or the HMRC that says, tell us what's going on. Tell us whether you've made any money, how much tax you owe. That's one department. The second department says, can we have the money that you owe us or don't owe us? So not doing your taxes isn't normally an option. So you've got to prepare it, work it out. And, if you have got a little bit of tax to pay, the earliest you know about it, put it to one side and just reduce that anxiety that you're going to have in the final moments.
Yeah, I'm a big believer you always file your taxes, because if you don't, the consequences could be worse. Even if you don't owe money, you have to file them. So, Marion, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please let us know. We can dive back into that. So let's your first, the 3 tips we're going to go over. Don't treat your business like a hobby. Do you have any stories that you've worked with people that were treating their business like a hobby, or what do you mean by that?
Well, and I'll hold my hands up to this, Mary, and I've been guilty of that myself. When I first started my business all those years ago, I didn't actually take it seriously. So I was doing what I enjoyed, which is great. You should do that in your business. I didn't really take all the lessons and the tips that I share with other people. So I was, I didn't actually make as much money. I was working too many hours. I got myself into trouble, made some rubbish decisions and all the rest of it. And then as time got on and I made that transformation, becoming working for myself more established, then I actually took it seriously. I've had situations, I've come across other business owners, they're doing something, they focus on one aspect of the business, and then when it comes to execution, they realize they haven't, invested in certain things, got staff sorted out, they haven't thought about how they're going to price things, they haven't thought about how much money they've got to spend, they haven't thought about how much money they're going to need, and they put themselves into trouble as a result. So I've been guilty of it myself, and I've seen a whole variety of business owners here just don't take it seriously. It's that shiny bauble syndrome, perhaps, or their mindset, but a whole host of things that get into there.
Yeah, so I think it's really important, no matter what stage you're at in your business, is to set up your financial goals for the year. So this is something that I do when I was in San Diego, Hera Hub, Felina. Shout out to Felina Hansen and Hera Hub. She would hold this full day workshop where we would work on what were our buckets of income, right? Here's the three things where we're going to sell, right? Whatever they were, service based, how much we're selling those for, right? And then our finances, like how much, what our operating expenses were and what are we selling these products, what the price point was, and how many of each product do we have to sell to hit our financial goal. So you can't hit a goal if you don't know what it is. Right?
Absolutely, you're correct. You need that. It's a great way of bit of planning that you're talking about. So you need that end point. What is it? What's your destination? What's your Northern Star? Work backwards and figure out what is it you've got to do to get there. So how many customers do you need? How much you need those customers to spend with you? What are your costs going to be? In terms of delivering it and producing it. What's your own personal reward going to be? How much you're going to pay yourself? And figure it out. And once you've got that sort of outline route map done, it's going to be much easier to actually get to that end destination.
Once I started doing that, then you could see the big picture. And I think having those goals, you're like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And this is when I'm going to raise my prices. So no matter where you're at in your business, starting off, midpoint, ready to scale, you definitely need to set up your finances for the year so you know where you're at now and where you want to be at the end of the year. So I love that. And don't treat your business like a hobby. So don't throw all your money in one account. Can you talk about a little bit about why you need to have a separate account for your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you make that transformation into the business world, Mary, is first of all, you assume roles that you wouldn't have had before if you were working for somebody else. So first of all, you become a tax collector. So money that you collect doesn't always belong to you. It belongs to the government. So if you get that psychology and put that money aside to actually pay over to the government, then what that does is two things. First of all, when you look at your bank account, your bank statement, what you see in that balance actually more likely belongs to you. So put it to one side. You get into those good habits earlier on, and therefore you don't get yourself into major problem. Secondly, I think for me, on average, it will take a business owner about a year and a half, probably 2 years, to make that proper transformation from doing everything running a business compared to just being an employee. And that little pockets of money for tax, little pockets of money to pay suppliers, little pockets of money to pay yourself, just gives you a bit more of an organized structure there. And therefore it's much easier to visualize and see what's appearing on your bank account.
I love it. I love it. Marion said, definitely important to budget. Also budget goals for each month to the whole year. So I like to do my big budget, like what is my end goal, and then break that down by quarters. So I can see, am I on track, right? Or like, let's be honest, for me, well, I'm just going to put it out there. January was a slow month. It's okay because February is looking to be a great month. But now I know where I'm at. And I keep telling my husband, oh my gosh, I got it. I have big goals for this year. He's like, you're fine. It's only February 1st, right? It was actually January 30th. I'm like, I'm not making my goals. He's like, this happened to you last year. Every January is a slow month for you. Or every January, is the slow month for you. And you need to remember that. So you also have to track your trends, right?
Oh, absolutely. You have to set markers as well. And I think the idea of that, the big plan, the big 12 months, break it down into whether quarters or months. I wouldn't suggest you go any smaller than months because a lot could happen in that month, but set yourself milestones, set yourself markers, because what I find is for a lot of business owners, and when I talk about the hobby side of things, it means you've got to put some sweat in to get the equity. You've got to apply yourself. There's work, but you've got to give yourself size to say, do you know what? This is what I set myself in the month of Feb. I've hit it. Fantastic. I can reward myself. I've hit that milestone. If you haven't quite got that milestone, doesn't mean you should panic. Doesn't mean you should give up. It means, what's the reasons I didn't quite get to where I wanted to in February? Have the conversation with yourself. Have the conversation with your team. Have the conversation with your husband or your partner. Figure out what went wrong, what went right, and put it right for the next month.
Yeah, my girl Shelly Mitch, she's watching over in the LinkedIn bakery. Thank you, Shelly, for tuning in. I know that we talk about money all the time in our accounts, and I'm always telling her about my business, and she is like my personal cheerleader, always telling me, you got this. Because, as a business owner, still growing my business, scaling my business this year, there's times where you're like, am I going to hit that goal? But I think understanding the market of your slow, when you're busy, when you're slow. Fourth quarter for me is now really tracking it over the last 2 years. Fourth quarter is hot and heavy. We're like, everybody's like, let's get this done, So I found that fourth quarter is a really busy time, and January is really slow, which again is just fine. It gives me time to do the behind the scenes stuff. So I want to talk to you. What do you mean by connect to your numbers? Do I have to be best friends with my bank account? Like, what do you mean by connecting to your numbers?
For a lot of people, in terms of, when you're in the school playground, you're not playing games and competitions with people like, flying around pretending to be a number person. But numbers are, for me, they're the words to your business story. And lots of business owners, for whatever reason, whether it's a jargon thing, whether it's a literacy thing with numbers, whether they haven't got the right systems, don't actually know things like how much they're spending, where the money's coming from, which products are doing well, which services are doing better, which customers earn them more money, which customers lose the money. And if you don't have that being aware of your numbers and not being wary of them, not feeling they're tacky, you just get a closer comfort zone. You don't need to be an accountant, by the way. You don't need to be a financial expert, but be aware of some of the main things. And for me, the way I would correlate that, everything you do in your business, so you do a marketing campaign, you bring on board a new customer, you go out and do some networking, always has an impact in financial terms. And if you can track that and at least get comfortable with it, at least get used to reading them, your literacy and your ability to navigate your business becomes much stronger. And that's what I mean about loving your numbers more. Don't just relegate them and delegate that to somebody once a year who files your taxes for you.
Well, let's talk about that. Okay. So the solopreneur, they're let's say they're scaling their business, they're making six figures, let's say they're right below the six figures, getting ready to go above that, so 80 to 120,000. Let's make it a range so a lot of people can fall in that bucket. Sure. At that point, how often do they need that bookkeeper, accountant? Like, what's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant? And at what point do you hire them? And how often? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Because a lot of people ask me that question. Do I hire the accountant? Do I just keep doing it myself? For me, I hate numbers. I don't hate numbers. I just don't want to deal with them. I don't want to figure out all that book stuff. I just want to give reports and let them do it. And I feel like I'm at that point where it needs to be done more than annually.
Okay, that's a great question, Mary. Let me talk through about how I would describe it to clients, for example. Generally speaking, if we look at you buy something, it generates an invoice. You pay for something, it creates an impact on your bank statement. That day-to-day financial activity of what you're spending, where the money's coming in from, is you need to keep a track and record that information somewhere. Now, traditionally, I would probably say is you do two things. You hire somebody or do it yourself, and you get an engine that can capture that information for you quite easily. So cloud accounting for me is a definite no-brainer. Every single business, whatever the size they are, if they're serious about growing their business, should have a cloud accounting system at the heart, the engine of their business that captures and records that number. You can have somebody in that comes in typically once a month to overview that. It's very possible nowadays to use technology to talk to your bank, and that information gets dumped into your system. So that, for me, that's the data that's in the system. Now, you can either develop your own skill sets, get an accountant who says, do you know what? I want you to help me tell me what those numbers actually mean. So what does it mean in terms of money that I'm making, product groups, services that I'm offering? Help me interpret, help me tell a story. And you might need to hook up with an accountant who comes up and speaks to you once a month, once every quarter, and helps you interpret that story. My personal preference is that business owners in the main should be connected and not just say to somebody, take care of everything, I'm not worried about those numbers. Because if you aren't connected to your own numbers there, you're going to be divorced from that, and it's going to be very difficult for you to make good decisions. So I would say cloud accounting to do the heavy lifting, get a VA, get a bookkeeper to actually help you capture the numbers correctly. That also helps you with year-end filing, helps you with producing reports and information, and get the accountants to come in to help you develop and build that system. So that's how I would typically.
So it's a combination. It's a combination. That was a great answer. So Marion said cloud accounting, like QuickBooks. When you say cloud accounting, can you give us some examples of programs that you might use?
Yeah, now again, it's a personal preference. So any QuickBook users out there, please don't throw anything at the screen. There are I have, in my 26 years, I've used an immense range of software packages. They all pretty much got lots of things in feature, so they can connect to bank accounts. Now, from a personal perspective, from a user point of view, I prefer something called Xero, Xero.
Xero, and this is
it's a cloud accounting package.
Cloud.
Yeah. No, I like it better compared to QuickBooks because it's more intuitive. It connects to a wider range of applications. It can easily plug into things like your websites, your credit card machines. But if you make a mistake, which we all do, then it's easier to correct as a user with Xero compared to QuickBooks. Now, having said that, I've got clients who use QuickBooks, Free Agent, free software. If it's nuts and bolts you want, then make that choice accordingly. If you said, what's your personal preference, then I would say Xero every single time. And if you're cool with it, Mary, I'm happy to drop a link to a free guide that we published. Let guys read it out. Whatever you use, just make sure you're familiar with it. But I would say personal preference would be Xero compared to all the other applications out there.
And you work with other, your client base, they use different things, right? So you've seen it all.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, I use like Dubsado for my invoicing and to put my financial goal up there. And I don't use it robustly yet, but I use it for all my clients, for the invoicing, the contracts, the questionnaires. Like that's the program I use. I'm not a QuickBooks fan.
Did you know what, Mary? What you just struck me there, and it's a great. Let me share another tip with you. One of the brilliant things about Dubsado, and I use that for our onboarding, for issuing contracts, and all the rest of it. One of the good things about Dubsado, like any application, is it's a great discipline. When the work is done, the invoice is created, the invoice gets out the door, and what that means in the client's mind and your mind is that money is now easier to collect because it's done electronically. So if you issue invoices through Word or through some other, word processing, waste of time, and it's a thing. The psychology of cash collection is cash is still the biggest commodity that causes business failure. When you run out of cash, you don't have access to cash, say goodbye. However big your business is, you will not survive. So whatever application you're using, Dubsado is great because it issues the invoices immediately.
It does the contract. I have different contracts in there. Yeah. I have my projects or the invoices, right? I probably have 10 different invoices. So it's helping me to streamline, and I'm still working on it, but I'm finding it's a program that I can use and grow with. So for me at this stage, it's what I use, but well, definitely, Xero might be something I use next year. Who knows? So Marion said, thank you. It'll be easier to share with accounting crew and all. Great tips. So thank you. So we talked about treating your business. It's not a hobby. If you want to make money and be legit, you need to separate things, set things up. Don't treat it as a hobby. Connecting to your numbers. So like knowing, so what I heard you say is you need cloud accounting. So everyone should have some type of cloud accounting. You need a bookkeeper or accountant, either depending on the stage of your business, monthly or quarterly, and you need to be involved in the process. Don't trust them 100% as far as you need to understand what they're telling you. And so you need to be able to ask smart questions. So how much am I spending in marketing? How much, my interest on my credit card? How much am I spending on apps and programs? That's probably my biggest bucket, right? My apps and programs, and then your general operating expenses. So that is what I got from that is hire that accountant to help you understand where you're spending money and where you're receiving money. The biggest buckets, right? I like to call them buckets.
Yeah.
The biggest buckets of what's bringing in the most consistent cash flow.
Absolutely. What I would add to that little bit there as well, Mary, is if we think about customers, everybody, whatever business you are, even if you only think you sell one product, one service, you've either got different customer groups, you've got different types of things you're doing. And if you can think, okay, if I look at all that I'm selling, can I break that down into different groups, different types of customers, different type of products, and track what you're selling by those groups? Because it's really useful then to say, if I look at the month of February, I've generated $20,000 worth of sales. If I break it down in terms of different customer groups, my different customer avatars, the different types of services that I offer, what's that 20,000 look like spread amongst those different groups, and what have been the costs against that? And therefore I can drill down and actually understand which customers I'm creating value from, which customers are a big drain on my time and energy, and I'm not making a great deal of money. And it means you can either put the prices up, drop the customer, do things to actually make more money out of that group. So I'm, where you can, just break it down a little bit more detail.
I love it. Those are really great tips. This has been so fun and informative. I love having you on the show. You know, big shout out to you. And where can people learn more about you, connect with you? Is there a social media platform that you like to connect with people? And do you have a website that you want to drop in after the show? How do you want people to reach out?
That's a great question. So I am not a marketer by trade, but I love the world of social media. I have got a website, www.proactiveresolutions.com. There's a bunch of free resources there. I've got LinkedIn. I can be reached there. I can be reached on Instagram, Mahmood Numbers Rockstar. If you want to keep in touch with what's going on, I publish weekly blogs, weekly videos, the weekly podcast, I Hate Numbers. So a whole manner of ways that you can get hold of me. Again, I'll drop the links in the website at the end. I publish quite a lot of content. I think from my educational background, I like to share resources, share tips, information there. So take your pick, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
I love it. So we'll go back in after the show. You'll go back in and drop your links, because I really have this broadcast. This show is to help busy entrepreneurs scale their business with ease and to grow their networks with strategic people. So you guys, even if you don't need an accountant or his services right now, why not connect with him? Because he's pretty freaking fabulous. Connect with him, add him to your network, help strengthen your network, because that's what it's all about, is having a strong network and collaborating and having a referral source and just having, like I like to say, cool, savvy professionals in your network. It's been so much fun having you on the show. Any last words of wisdom before we sign off?
No, I would just probably say one last thing. In terms of coming to 2021, whatever happened in 2020, reset the clock, look ahead to 2021, plan, get some form of plan. If you do nothing else, put together a financial cash plan for the next 12 months. What's your business story? Turn it into a figure. We'll look at what's going on. That will be my number one thing. Keep your mental resilience there. Keep it positive, because you will get bumps and roller coaster type ride, and have fun.
I love it. So if someone has never done a financial plan, do you have a basic sheet you can share, or do they just use Excel? I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, what if they're like, yeah, I've just been running my business and it's been going fine, but I want to level it up and I want to create a basic financial plan. Do you have, a system or anything that you can refer them to?
Absolutely. On the links, I'll drop them later on. There's a free cash flow guide that we've got. So it tells people how to put one together. And I'll make available and share a free cash flow template as well. So you can put your figures together, and you don't need to be an Excel expert either.
Perfect. Okay, so I've started a new thing in 2021. We're adding a little fun to the end of the show. It's called This or That. I'm going to rattle off 2 words for you, and you have to pick one or the other. You can't add your own.
Okay.
And so here we go. Now, you're in England, so normally I would say donuts or bagels, but for you, how about scones or muffins?
Scones.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Depends what time of day. I'll go for tea.
Okay. Now, here I would say football or baseball, but over there, would I say cricket or soccer, or cricket or football?
I'd probably go for baseball actually, but
Oh, okay, baseball. Mountains or beaches?
oh, it's a toughie. I'll go for beaches.
Wine or whiskey, if you drink?
Wine.
Okay. And then rock and roll or country music?
Ah, interesting. I love Dolly Parton, so I'm going to go for rock and roll though.
Okay, so it's just a little fun game just to get inside my guests, just something fun to rock it out at the end. I just want to say thank you for being on the show. I'm so glad that we connected, and thank you for everyone that's watching. Go ahead, if you're watching the replay, like we said at the beginning, drop your comments and questions in, because we promise to go back in and engage with you. No, really, we're going to test us. Drop a comment. And you guys, finally, if you are ready to get known and be found, you have a profile on LinkedIn, but it doesn't really represent you well, or maybe you've pivoted. You don't know how to reach out to people, and you don't know what kind of content you should be creating on LinkedIn. I'm offering a new service. We did it last year and it went over very well. So we're relaunching it. It's an intensive. It's a VIP intensive half day with me. You can do a half day or full day. And it's where we just get it all done. Because sometimes you just want to buckle down, hunker down, and get it all done in a day. We're going to have a new background banner for you, new headline, optimize your profile, come up with your strategic connections, and a 30-day content plan. Like, that's crazy. You're going to get that done. I normally work with my clients for 3 months, but if you're like, fast track me, this is the program for you. I'm going to drop the comments or the link over in the comments, and also a link to a consultation in case you're like, no, Mare, that sounds like too much for one day, but I'd love to work with you over 3 months and work on LinkedIn game and getting known and found and filling your pipeline with clients. So you guys, it has been fun and informative. I love doing these shows. Let me know who you want to see and what you want to learn in 2021, and I will reach out and find the perfect guest for us. Thank you so much for for joining us and for being on the show.
Appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me, Mary.